plots can be an important piece of the puzzle in your habitat plan. Installed in the right location, they can create predictable movement patterns and hunting opportunities for all types of wildlife. I do believe that too often there's a lopsided emphasis on the food plots and not enough focus or credit given to the browse, regeneration, and early successional growth that can and will grow in abundance. When you take the time to cut and hinge trees, creating openings where sunlight can reach the ground in those transition areas where the local deer move from their bedding to their feeding areas. It only requires you to take 2 to 4 hours of your time to assess and evaluate and come up with a plan of action. Doing this can make a change your local deer will appreciate and you as a habitat manager will be pleased with as well. Here's an area located between two food plots in a wet, moist ground location. I cut and hinged mainly ash trees, willow, cherries, and plums. I set a game camera up for a week or so afterwards to check on how the deer liked the new browse, the overhead and the side cover, and the new travel corridor I'd created through a couple hours of my time using a chainsaw. Here's a young buck that's still holding one side, moving through and investigating. I want to show a couple examples of where and how I go about cutting and building hinged browse, side cover, and travel corridors to funnel deer into food sources where they have opportunities to take advantage of the nutrition and the security that Mother Nature provides. These areas offer multiple locations for bucks to rub and scrape, adding even more predictability movement patterns to your outside food plot edges. So what you can see right here is this is food source. Typically I plant soybeans. Occasionally I'll mix some corn in there. I've got alfalfa from about, from about this line all the way up to this line, and this is seclusion 360 over in here. Now what I've done over the years is I've gone into these areas. You'll see I've got a wetland right here where it transitions up not a steep bank, but a 10-foot bank. And I've hinged a lot of trees in here to get early successional growth, and there's some winding deer trails where they can access through here. Same thing in this area. I've got a few conifers standing, but other than that I've hinged a lot of hickories and crab apples and maples and small oaks and walnuts. Same through here. I've got a nice little island of hinged trees right here. This is all hinged with high cover, low cover, a major travel corridor that goes east and west here. And the beauty of this particular corridor, now there's much more bedding off in this direction that you can't see in the recording, but when the wind is from the south or southeast or southwest, a lot of bucks will filter out of this bedding area, pick up this travel corridor, and follow this corridor like this, scent checking this food source, and oftentimes coming from the east, walking all the way down through here and maybe entering the food here, coming down, working along this edge and entering, or coming into some of these. I've got these little spots that I opened up and got rid of some bigger walnut trees I had growing here years ago, cut those out of the way so I can plant more food. But what you'll find, and I'll show you some pictures of the work I did here, is that locating the side cover and lots of early succession, so there's plenty of natural food and browse all along the edge of this food source, can really change how the deer feel as far as security. It's not park effect, okay? It's very thick and there's lots of stem density. It provides a lot of diverse food sources, and when the food is completely gone and it's winter time and there's snow, there's still all this browse available in here. So it's just a win-win when you implement this along your food sources. So here is a view of my destination field, which is now been planted in Seclusion 360. It's in its second season. I've got a miscanthus pinch point gap right here. But over the years, I've gone into a lot of this early successional growth. I've got a lot of conifers and pine and Douglas fir and things like that planted in here. But I got a lot of volunteer hickories, maples, oaks, ash trees, so I've hinged those. I've always kept things low in here because a lot of bedding goes on from these conifers into some hinged trees farther into the woods there. And a lot of deer filter out these travel corridors, so there's a lot of early succession they can browse on, utilize a security cover here. All along through here I've got a apple tree right here and a new apple tree I discovered about 5 or 6 years ago growing right here. So I've created some really good travel corridors where deer can come in, browse underneath the apple tree, get some apples, and enter into the food plot in multiple directions and still have lots of available browse too. And the same thing down here on the south end. This entire area has been hinged and there's just all kinds of browse, and this is a little bit of a wet area that I showed in the beginning of the video where there's some reed canary grass, but a lot of deer movement from bedding all through the conifers here moving into this food source. This nice buck made sure that he stopped to browse on the multiflora rows growing along the edge before he left the plot, even though he took the time to consume a lot of the forage, work a couple scrapes, and rub a few trees. This is a perfect example of why side cover and browse on the edges of your food plots are so important. I see my share of open-edged food plots every year while visiting hunter properties. Keep in mind that just because you've had a timber harvest doesn't mean you won't be cutting every year somewhere near your food sources to increase security and long-term browse. Success is a process. I learned long ago there are no shortcuts to get you there. Once you've created a handful of these paralleling trails with browse and security cover on each side, they can offer you a chance to create one of your better rut period hunting setups due to how the bucks will cruise inside the cover scent checking for estrus does while avoiding the open food plots. These examples I just showed in this video will vary quite a bit from your own food plots, the parallel travel corridors, and associated bedding areas that might be closer or farther away. Every property has its own set of circumstances, hunting pressure, stand access challenges. However, I encourage many of you that have been working and managing your own hunting properties to include a few of these inside cover deer movement pathways to improve your hunting and overall enjoyment of your property. I feel it's important to remind anyone watching this that your success and the amount of time deer and specifically mature bucks will spend using these areas I've shown depends heavily on your reduced human disturbance and hunting pressure. Overhunting, hunting under poor wind or weather conditions all advertise to the local deer that you're spending time there, and this sends them into covert survival activity. Thanks for watching another Habitat Solutions 360 LLC video. Good luck and good habitat.